The United States Congress, comprising 535 members, is the legislative body responsible for enacting laws and shaping the legislative landscape of the nation. As outlined in the Constitution, Congress holds the exclusive authority to create, amend, and repeal laws, making it a pivotal institution in the American democratic system. However, the concentration of legislative power within the hands of a limited number of individuals raises fundamental questions about the representativeness and inclusivity of the decision-making process. The structure of Congress, with 100 senators in the U.S. Senate and 435 representatives in the U.S. House of Representatives, grants significant influence to these elected officials in determining the legal framework that governs a diverse and populous nation of over 330 million individuals. While the concept of representative democracy lies at the core of the American political system, the current composition of Congress raises concerns about the extent to which the voices and interests of the general populace are truly reflected in legislative decisions. The issue at hand is not merely about the numerical disparity between the members of Congress and the American population, but also about the mechanisms through which legislative decisions are made. The concentration of legislative power within a select group of individuals may lead to a detachment from the realities and concerns of everyday citizens, potentially resulting in laws that do not fully align with the collective will of the people. In a nation founded on the principles of democracy and popular sovereignty, it is imperative to re-examine the structure and functioning of Congress to ensure a more inclusive and participatory legislative process. The call for change stems from the recognition that the current system may not adequately represent the diverse perspectives, experiences, and needs of the American people. As we embark on a journey towards a more democratic transformation of legislative power, it is essential to critically evaluate the role of Congress in shaping the future of our nation. By engaging in thoughtful discourse, promoting transparency, and advocating for reforms that enhance the democratic character of our legislative institutions, we can strive towards a more representative and accountable system of governance that truly serves the interests of all Americans. The evolution of congressional power in the United States has been shaped by a complex interplay of historical events, constitutional interpretations, and shifting political dynamics. From the founding of the nation to the present day, Congress has played a central role in shaping the legislative agenda, overseeing the federal government, and representing the interests of the American people. The framers of the U.S. Constitution vested significant authority in Congress, designating it as the primary legislative body responsible for enacting laws and exercising oversight over the executive branch. The separation of powers doctrine, enshrined in the Constitution, sought to prevent the concentration of authority in any single branch of government, thereby ensuring a system of checks and balances that would safeguard against tyranny and abuse of power. Over the course of American history, Congress has asserted its authority through landmark legislation, such as the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Affordable Care Act of 2010, and the Patriot Act of 2001. These legislative achievements have shaped the social, economic, and political landscape of the nation, demonstrating the pivotal role that Congress plays in addressing pressing issues and advancing the public good. Moreover, Congress holds the power of the purse, controlling the federal budget and appropriations process. Through its oversight functions, Congress scrutinizes the actions of the executive branch, conducts investigations, and holds hearings to ensure accountability and transparency in government operations. This oversight role is essential in upholding the principles of democratic governance and preventing abuses of power. In recent decades, however, concerns have been raised about the concentration of power within Congress and the influence of special interests on legislative decision-making. The rise of partisan gridlock, campaign finance issues, and the proliferation of lobbying have raised questions about the ability of Congress to effectively represent the interests of the American people and enact meaningful reforms. As we reflect on the historical evolution of congressional power in America, it is clear that the institution has played a pivotal role in shaping the nation's laws, policies, and institutions. Moving forward, it is essential to consider how we can strengthen the democratic foundations of Congress, enhance transparency and accountability, and ensure that legislative decisions truly reflect the will of the people. By engaging in a critical examination of the past and present dynamics of congressional power, we can work towards a more inclusive and responsive system of governance that upholds the values of democracy, and serves the interests of all Americans. As the cornerstone of the legislative branch of the United States government, Congress faces a myriad of challenges that impact its effectiveness and ability to represent the diverse interests of the American people. These challenges encompass structural, procedural, and political factors that shape the functioning of Congress and influence its capacity to address the complex issues facing the nation. One of the primary challenges facing Congress is partisan polarization, which has reached unprecedented levels in recent years. The deep ideological divisions between Democrats and Republicans have led to gridlock and legislative stalemates, making it increasingly difficult for Congress to pass meaningful legislation and address pressing national priorities. This polarization has hindered compromise, consensus building, and bipartisan cooperation, undermining the ability of Congress to effectively govern and respond to the needs of the American people. In addition to partisan divisions, the influence of special interests and money in politics presents a significant challenge to congressional representation. The proliferation of lobbying, campaign contributions, and political action committees has raised concerns about the extent to which Congress is influenced by powerful corporate interests and wealthy donors, rather than the voices of ordinary citizens. This influence can distort policy priorities, skew decision-making, and erode public trust in the integrity of the legislative process. Furthermore, procedural obstacles within Congress, such as filibusters, cloture rules, and the legislative calendar, can impede the passage of legislation and hinder the ability of lawmakers to act swiftly in response to changing circumstances. The complex legislative process, coupled with arcane rules and practices, can create barriers to effective governance and limit the capacity of Congress to address urgent challenges in a timely manner. Moreover, demographic shifts and changing societal dynamics present additional challenges to congressional representation. The lack of diversity among lawmakers, both in terms of race, gender, and socioeconomic background, can contribute to a disconnect between Congress and the diverse populations it is meant to serve. Ensuring that Congress reflects the full spectrum of American society is crucial for promoting inclusive decision-making and advancing policies that address the needs of all communities. As we confront the challenges to congressional effectiveness and representation, it is essential to explore reforms that promote transparency, accountability, and responsiveness in the legislative process. By addressing the root causes of partisan polarization, money in politics, procedural barriers, and demographic underrepresentation, we can work towards a Congress that is better equipped to fulfill its constitutional duties, represent the interests of all Americans, and uphold the principles of democratic governance. In light of the challenges facing Congress in the 21st century, there have been various proposals and initiatives aimed at enhancing accountability, transparency, and representation within the legislative branch. These proposals seek to address the structural deficiencies, procedural obstacles, and political dynamics that have hindered Congress's ability to effectively govern and respond to the needs of the American people. By exploring innovative reforms and strategies, we can work towards a more responsive and inclusive system of governance that upholds the principles of democratic representation. One key proposal for strengthening congressional accountability is campaign finance reform. The influence of money in politics has long been a concern, with critics arguing that the current campaign finance system allows wealthy donors and special interest groups to wield disproportionate influence over legislative decision-making. Reform efforts, such as limiting the role of corporate PACs, increasing transparency in political spending, and exploring public financing options, aim to reduce the influence of money in politics and promote a more equitable and representative electoral process. Another area of focus for reform is congressional ethics and transparency. Enhancing ethics rules, strengthening conflict of interest regulations, and improving transparency measures can help restore public trust in Congress and ensure that lawmakers are held accountable for their actions. By promoting greater openness and accountability in the legislative process, Congress can demonstrate its commitment to serving the interests of the American people and upholding the highest standards of integrity and ethical conduct. Additionally, proposals to address partisan polarization and promote bipartisan cooperation are essential for overcoming gridlock and fostering a more productive legislative environment. Initiatives that encourage dialogue, compromise, and consensus building across party lines can help bridge ideological divides and facilitate the passage of legislation that reflects the diverse perspectives of the American populace. By prioritizing collaboration and cooperation, Congress can work towards finding common ground on critical issues and advancing policies that benefit all Americans. Furthermore, efforts to enhance diversity and representation within Congress are vital for ensuring that the legislative body reflects the full spectrum of American society. Encouraging greater participation of women, minorities, and individuals from diverse backgrounds in the political process can bring new perspectives, experiences, and ideas to the forefront of policymaking. By promoting inclusivity and diversity in Congress, we can foster a more representative and responsive system of governance that better serves the needs of all communities. As we consider these proposals for strengthening congressional accountability and representation, it is imperative to engage in constructive dialogue, collaboration, and advocacy to advance meaningful reforms that uphold the principles of democracy and promote the common good. By working together to address the underlying challenges facing Congress and to implement innovative solutions, we can build a more effective, transparent, and representative legislative branch that serves as a true reflection of the will and interests of the American people. As we look to the future of congressional reform and democratic governance in the United States, it is essential to consider the evolving challenges, opportunities, and imperatives that will shape the trajectory of legislative decision-making and representation. The imperative to strengthen Congress as a responsive, accountable, and inclusive institution is paramount in ensuring that the voices and interests of all Americans are effectively represented in the halls of power. One of the key pathways towards enhancing congressional reform is through structural changes that promote greater accountability and transparency. Reforms that streamline the legislative process, increase public access to information, and strengthen oversight mechanisms can help bolster the integrity of congressional decision-making and ensure that lawmakers are held to the highest standards of ethical conduct. By fostering a culture of transparency and accountability, Congress can rebuild public trust and confidence in the legislative branch. Moreover, efforts to address the influence of money in politics and curb the power of special interests are critical for promoting a more equitable and representative democratic system. Campaign finance reform measures, such as limits on political contributions, disclosure requirements for dark money, and public financing options, can help reduce the outsized influence of wealthy donors and corporate interests on legislative outcomes. By leveling the playing field and amplifying the voices of ordinary citizens, Congress can better serve the public interest and advance policies that reflect the needs and priorities of all Americans. In addition, initiatives to foster bipartisanship, collaboration, and compromise in Congress are essential for overcoming gridlock and advancing meaningful legislative solutions. By promoting a culture of civility, respect, and cooperation across party lines, lawmakers can bridge ideological divides, find common ground on shared priorities, and enact legislation that addresses the pressing challenges facing the nation. Building consensus through dialogue and engagement is fundamental to restoring the functionality and effectiveness of Congress as a deliberative and representative body. Furthermore, promoting diversity and inclusivity within Congress remains a crucial objective for ensuring that the institution reflects the rich tapestry of American society. Encouraging the participation of women, minorities, and individuals from underrepresented communities in the political process can bring new perspectives, experiences, and insights to the policy-making process. By fostering a more diverse and inclusive Congress, we can broaden the range of voices at the decision-making table and advance policies that promote equity, justice, and opportunity for all. As we chart the course for the future of congressional reform and democratic governance, let us commit to upholding the principles of transparency, accountability, representation, and collaboration that are essential for a vibrant and responsive democracy. By working together to enact meaningful reforms, engage in constructive dialogue, and promote a culture of civic engagement and participation, we can build a Congress that truly serves the interests of the American people, upholds the values of democratic governance, and advances the common good for generations to come.